Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back with Martin. This time to talk about, as Kevin mentions here, snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. Nottingham Forest 2, Aston Villa 1 in the Midlands derby. And yeah, Aston Villa threw it away again, Martin. Before we get into the game and get all your comments coming in, make sure you smash that like button, hit the subscribe button as well. We are less than 150 away from 5,000. So you guys can really help us get there. Like, subscribe, get your comments in, because there's quite a few talking points, quite a few things that we thought had left Aston Villa over the last couple of weeks, but they came roaring back again. Martin, how are you doing after last night's match?
I think it's fair to say I'm not really doing too well after it, because I just felt that we were probably in control of the game for a good bit of the match, but we then lost it with the first warning of the disallowed goal from Chris Wood being offside, and we didn't really listen to that warning. We just kind of still sat back and just soaked in the pressure, which is something that has been really worrying now for the last while, that we're not able to hold these pressures. So we need to be able to, see games out, and hopefully in the next few weeks that things will change.
Yeah. It's like I said, the same old problems seem to be rearing their head again. And to me, I was at the game, and good to see so many people saying hello, and Villa fans are in good voice and everything like that. It was really good, and I love the City Ground. It's a phenomenal atmosphere. But I think in terms of that situation, I put it down to a couple of things. The decision making at those points when Forest seemed to grab the momentum, or when after we went 1-0 up, even with the 10 minutes to go, just that decision making at certain times is just so bad. And then I think the substitutions that Nottingham Forest made were key to them kind of getting back in the game, and our substitutions didn't seem to. I don't know whether it was have an impact or what, but yeah, it just seemed to me like there's just certain decisions at certain times that players are making. I just don't understand where they're coming from with it. The decision by Diego Carlos to play a long raking pass into Ollie Watkins to. I just, rather than keeping possession and passing the ball back to Emery Martinez or passing it across the back, but then also after that, then to try and play a casual or attempts like a defense splitting pass to Matty Cash that gets easily blocked out. Like, I don't understand that thought process, and not what's going on with the decision making to manage those game situations. And then, as I say, like the reaction to kind of the substitutions just didn't seem like we were just a rabbit caught in the headlights, and we just didn't react well enough to those momentum shifts.
Yeah, I think with a game like this, right? Obviously, after Champions League, and I know this is a case now for Aston Villa at this minute, we've only really won once after all League games, and then when you factor in this game with momentum, I think one of these things can be, the Mings, coming out of the lineup before the game started due to the fact of an illness, and maybe that probably weighed on the players' minds. It was affecting the game plan. Maybe there was a certain game plan going into it, and then when it changes last minute, it affects things. It affects the flow. It could affect our momentum. But when Forest gained momentum, we didn't seem to react quick enough to that. I didn't think we were on the ball. I didn't think we were saying, right, let's soak it up for a little while. Let's remain compact, make smart decisions, draw fouls. And normally when you draw fouls, that kind of slows down momentum. But then that's when you come into the referee. The referee let too many go. I mean, blatant fouls you'll ever see in your life, in my opinion, all over the pitch, on both sides, not just one. And it was just disrupting our flow, but for some reason it seemed to benefit Forest. And that's just the way I see it. And then
Yeah,
we
yeah,
look at obviously our defense reacting in terms of, you know, these decision making passes when you're soaked under pressure. If sometimes the ball has to go long just to get it out of there and push the team off the field, that's what you have to do. Instead of making a 4 or 5 yard pass and you're being pressured on by 2 or 3 lads and then you're under pressure again. This all happened in the final 10 minutes of the game. And that's something that has to be eliminated. If fair enough, if we draw that game, you would say, right, a draw is probably a good result. But the fact we lost that game on the basis of losing control of the game and not being smart and not being clever enough with our decision making in terms of being on the ball or in terms of slowing it down when we need to slow it down. We were still going at 100 miles an hour, and that played into Forest's hand and, of course, the home crowd because they'll get behind the players back then. And that's just the way that these things happen. But I just felt it wasn't good enough in those final 10 minutes.
yeah. I think the third point. We will talk the referee a bit. I'm loath to. There were a couple of glaring, I think, mistakes, but I'm loath to criticise referees, particularly as it's a both teams type of thing. But the third thing, I say, decision making is just ridiculous. Like I said, Diego Carlos trying to play a long raking pass after you're just controlling the game. You're in nice controlled possession. You can just keep the ball, take the sting out of the game. That then causes the disallowed goal. Then they get the momentum and think, right, sod this. We're just going to go because momentum shifts in those situations. Absolutely. Then it's about the trying to play 3 and 4 and 5 yard passes on the edge of your box, as you quite rightly say. Just clear the ball, put it into areas that are behind the defense that Ollie Watkins can run onto, that one or two other players can run onto and hold the ball in the corners and bring players into the game instead of trying to play 1 and 2 touch passing. And then the third point is that I've already said about the substitutions that we didn't react well to those substitutions. Ilanga had a big impact. It's that lack of leadership, and yes, we talked. Tyrone Mings came in against Brentford and was fantastic, and yes, I think he probably would have made a big difference yesterday. But we can't just say everything hinges on Tyrone Mings. We've now got experienced players in this team. They've
Yes.
played alongside each other for numerous years now. They should know that what players are doing when they're not playing well, who should be doing what. If they're not doing that, who's getting it on top of them, who's telling them, who's rallying the troops, and this it's these points that we're dropping that signals this lack of character, this lack of leadership, because we just don't seem to have the. Yes, we've come from behind to win games. We know that we have done that, but when the chips are down, when you need you need players in the trenches with you. I just don't know if we've got enough of those, and that's this. This is the problem that's rearing its head continuously.
Yeah, and you're right. I just think with that game, it was really obviously 100 miles an hour, and Forest, of course, they're having a
We
brilliant
it,
season. But
it
when
was
it
only
comes to
100 mile
every
an hour
game,
for the last. It was only 100 mile an hour for the last 15 minutes. For the first 60
exactly, and
minutes,
that's yeah, we controlled the game, we controlled the tempo, we didn't let Forest into it, and then we just let Forest into it. And I
mm,
feel like when you're up against it, the only player that I felt was up to that standard was Boubacar Kamara. He was the only one clearing it up, getting it out. But probably his downfall that he wasn't telling all the other lads around him to, get up the pitch, let's get out of here. He was still doing all the other stuff that he was brilliant at. But he didn't have that voice to tell the lads, let's get up, let's be up the standard. And I didn't see
mm,
that from him. And
mm,
then no one else beside him was doing it. No one else here was doing it. Like, I feel like The two players, in my opinion, that are outfield that should be doing it and be the most vocal in doing it if Tyrone Mings is not there is John McGinn and Ezri Konsa. Because obviously Konsa is at the heart of the defence, so he should be able to tell the lads, this is the line, this is how we do it. And then you have John McGinn in midfield to tell the boys to stick tight. And of course, the strikers is a little bit different. There's almost so much only a striker can do. He's the first line of defence. So therefore, if anything gets through him, he has to be able to rely on the 5 people, the 10 other people then behind him to do a job. So, and then of course, you got Emery Martinez probably shouting at his defence, push up, get out of here, you're too tight. And it showed for the two Forest's goals. The defence was too tight to the goalkeeper, and the goalkeeper couldn't just come to claim the ball every now and then, tried to slow it down for himself. He didn't have any of that. And this is where Villa are really downfalling this season, I think.
Yeah, we don't seem to be able to block crosses. We don't. I think someone on Twitter, I don't know who it was, but they made a really good point. Is we don't really have, other than Kamara and maybe Onana at times, but he does tend to dive in. We don't really have a tackler. We try and intercept. We try and steal the ball. We try and nick the ball. We don't have like big tacklers, particularly out wide, who will block crosses, will throw their body in line with the ball, and we let too many crosses into the box. And we're conceding. We're not conceding that many chances, but we are conceding big chances in games. And this is why you have to go to the likes of Emery Martinez to save, to an amazing, unbelievable save. But he shouldn't have to be making saves like that. You don't want your goalkeepers to have to make save after save after save that's unbelievable every game, like the likes of Bayern Munich that you had to make and one or two, because what will happen is he'll make mistakes and he'll miss saves that he should make, which is what he's been doing all season.
Yeah, exactly. Because I kind of, in a way, I sympathise with Emery Martinez in comparison to David De Gea, right? When the defence is letting you down and he's kind of being shown as the best player. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not taking away from Emery Martinez that he was an absolutely brilliant goalkeeper for us. And he really should only be saving the chances that are minimal so that it can show his worth and value, not having to be relied upon chance after chance after chance. Because even at times, he's going to look bad because with goalkeepers, it's such an unforgiving position because if you make a mistake, 9 times out of 10, it's going to lead to a goal. And then that defense is practically the same thing. And he's worried now the goalkeeper to bail him out, but the goalkeeper can't be bailed out by anybody. And this is the thing now for Emery, that it's nothing against him, obviously, that he's making these top saves. And then obviously there's going to be saves that he's missing that he should be making. But that's because of the mindset of the defense that's in front of him, conceding so many chances that are clear cut. Like clear cut chances. That's what we're giving away. We're not giving away half chances that kind of go in at times.
It's crazy.
We're giving away clear cut chances. We're letting players run into the box, onto the byline, and cutting it back. And that's something that we didn't do last season. We were playing a high line and catching teams offside. How come we can't come back to that? I just don't get it. How come we didn't stick to one philosophy and go with it? Now, I know the high line was probably being figured out by teams that having a yard and then it kind of works from there. But even at times, if you're going to have a high line, just look at where the player's running and collectively as defenders to try and outsmart that run as well. And that just didn't happen at an Aston Villa standpoint. It really didn't.
Yeah, there's one more point that I've got that I want to raise with you before we kind of talk of the general, but I do want to get to some comments because we had loads coming in. Gary said, "Hi everyone, totally pissed at that last 20 minutes. Cash with schoolboy defending was the kicker for me. 3 times he had the chance to clear." Kevin said he couldn't believe we took off Kamara and Tielemans. They had that midfield locked. Yeah. Michael said we got arrogant and sloppy and we're going down too easy looking for fouls. Gary also said Forest were giving us loads of respect and we were coasting. A draw would have done. Yeah, Cloudy, I'll come to your point a bit later. Sharik said, let's be honest, after conceding the equaliser again, was anyone that surprised we lost? That's the thing, mate. I probably wasn't. City next, then Newcastle, more defeats coming. Gary, it's going to be tough now. 2 tough league games and West Ham in the Cup are big games now. Sai AVFC, why do we go back to passing the ball so slow again when choosing the Champions League? Our success has been based on moving the ball with pace. Yeah, agree. Danny, that last 20 minutes, where was the character and leadership? As I mentioned, too many hiding when going got tough. Our defending will cost us. Our year never fixed. Kamara coming off was a mistake. Yeah, 100%. Anytime there's a 50-50 game, we lose it. So Sharik, all our league wins bar one have been against the bottom half. All our wins in the Champions League have been against the bottom four bar one. Yeah, it's difficult to look at it other anything like that. Our subs look good on paper, but it turns out it was toilet paper. Yes. Booba was class. His best game for Villa. Stupid substitution, says Cloudy. Why change it when you're winning with a slender 1-0 lead away from home? Keep them on and keep the momentum going. Poor decision from Emery. Once Booba went off, nobody in midfield put a challenge. Our squad is far weaker. Even the fringe players from last year are better. Diaby over Bailey, Zaniolo over Philogene. Longley over Carlos and Mings. Young left 2 years ago, and we still, he would. And it's still a little bit bizarre. So lots of people talk about the Kamara decision and just not being the best. 100%. Poor decision making. Last 10 minutes, brain phase. We're gifting goals. Absolutely. When was the last time we conceded a goal? Wasn't our mistake and was actually a good goal. Even the Leipzig second was Emery hesitating. It's, and lots of people talk about the off-season business, which I think we'll probably get into on the fans forum on Tuesday. But my last sort of point before talking about players and sort of the way that we play in terms of strategy was, why don't we give away any cynical fouls anymore? Why don't we get players like interrupting the flow of teams running through us? You look at the best teams, like you look at the, Man City's not at the moment, obviously, but the Man Uniteds of old, the Liverpool, even Liverpool now, like they'll go around the team, different players around the team will pick up a booking, they'll interrupt the flow, they'll pull someone back when they're running through on goal, they'll make a bad challenge and then look at the ref as if to say they've not done anything. Why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we showing that nasty side of our game that just kills a game? Just stops players from building any momentum. When was the last time John McGinn got a yellow card for pulling someone back, or Yuri Tielemans or someone like that? Just go around the team and interrupt their flow. I'm not saying go out and injure players, but Gibbs White was getting on the ball too much. Someone go in and put a bad challenge on him. Someone pull him back. Someone get in on Elliot and Anderson and push him over or do something to interrupt the flow. Start being a bit nasty. It's like we're just too easy to play against and too easy to run through, and no one's no one's picking up bookings. We should have had like 5, 6, 7, 8 bookings yesterday because when we went 1-0 up, we should be just putting the game to bed, putting in clever fouls, cynical fouls, and just completely killing the game. And we just rolled over basically.
I just think that Aston Villa, in all the years I've supported them and all the years other people may have supported them as well, obviously going back generation, I think we're perceived as a nice football club. Like, there's never been a game where I've seen Aston Villa being nasty, not in a negative nasty way, but in a positive nasty way of, disrupting teams' momentum, disrupting, other teams of how they play in terms of possession, and we just do one little foul here in an area on the halfway line just to stop them from getting to us and getting back into shape, or making a foul that's, stopping a counter attack, which is something we've been punished for this season, of course. Not drawing a foul and not just making it like a slide tackle, anything at all, just to stop any sort of counter attack or any way to run through us. And I think that's been a big downfall for Aston Villa, that we're perceived. Don't get me wrong, it's nice to be perceived as a nice football club, but sometimes you've got to put your niceness out the way and say, look, lads, we need to be a little bit more nasty. We need to be a little bit more cynical in what way we do our fouls. If you have to get a yellow card, so what? Get the yellow card. It'll stop them from playing against us. Nice teams get ran through so easily. Nice teams are so easy to play against. But when you're a nasty football team, again, in a positive manner, where you can draw these cynical fouls, all the other teams are going to go, tough place to go to. We can't get through them. We can't do this because they do things in the right area. And that's something that has really bothered me as an Aston Villa fan, and of course many other Aston Villa fans as well, and like you there as well, Rich. We just need to be a bit more clever when we don't have possession.
Yeah, it's streetwise, isn't it? And I mean, I know James is sort of saying, a bit more, wanting to have a bit more kind of a philosophical look at it. We're sixth in the league and lose a game of football. Yeah, I appreciate that, but in the isolation of this game, to be 1-0 up with 5 minutes to go and then you lose, then that is ridiculous. That is not a team that is challenging for top 6. Yes, I know Man City have done that today against Man United, but they will be having the same post-mortem of how that happens. You can't be 1-0 up away from home and lose the game with 5 minutes to go. And in terms of the tactical fouls, people saying, we don't do it, we're too nice. It's right. And I just don't understand, why we're not doing it. You think of like Eddie, the game that sticks out to me is Eddie Howe's teams when they come to Villa Park, whether it was Bournemouth or whether it's Newcastle, they always out battle us physically, interrupt our rhythm, interrupt our flow, and take
Mm.
advantage. And if you look at, like, I remember Bournemouth beat us 2-1 or something when we came up in the first season we came up, and about 5 or 6 of their players got bookings. And Philip Billing must have had about 6 fouls across the game, only ended up getting 1 yellow card after like the 6th foul, when really probably could have had 2. But they just stopped us from getting any flow in the game. And that's how Eddie Howe beats Villa all the time. They just swarm us, put bad challenges on us, put cynical tackles, and just pass the bookings around the team. And then lo and behold, they end up beating us. We don't do that to any teams. And I just think that's an element of being that top level side that you have to get to be able to win ugly and win in a way that is, showing that you're dominating a team physically, not just with footballing ability.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Like if you look at all the big teams of old, your Chelsea's, Man United's, Man City's, Liverpool, even Arsenal, they won games when you had to get ugly, and they were clever about it. And obviously, with the quality of players that they had, they could do that moment of magic to play that football for 2 minutes, and you get a goal out of it. With Villa at this minute, we don't. I don't think we really have a player that's so physical and with a presence of it's going to be a hard day in the office to play against him. I don't think we have that. Of course, you've got Boubacar Kamara, who is great on the ball. He's a great tackler, but even at times he kind of gets out muscled by teams with such big physicality.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Like even he does, and that's something that you have to point at, because I know a lot of people would not put certain players under criticism, but you have to put every single player under criticism at times, Kamara included. And Pau Torres as well is another one. His strength is not really up there, and he's a centre back. And you look at the size of Carlos, he's even getting out most of the times. Look at Liam Delap for Ipswich, absolutely bullied him and got 2 goals out of it. So it just goes to show that we kind of need some players that are nasty type, physical, and just being smart in the right areas of the pitch where they don't get sent off. And it's one of them players that you love to have, but then you hate to play against.
yeah, yeah. I mean, Onana, we're hoping he's that type of player. Probably hasn't been fit enough, and I think that was one of the frustrations that Everton fans had him. Like, whenever he seemed to get some rhythm and showing that, dominating that nasty streak potentially and helping teams to dominate midfield, he gets injured. So we need to see some consistency from him coming through. Obviously, then that takes me to the next point that you kind of touched on before about referees, because if you are facing a referee that is letting a lot of things go, then you can't be relying on him to give you decisions. And yes, we had I think the penalty, I would say, for me, it should have been given, definitely. And I would say probably this was a foul, but in the context of the game, when the referee's letting so much go, you ain't going to get a foul for that. And this is where I'm talking about, using the situation of the game, looking at what the referee's doing and how the referee's playing the game, and understanding that you can be maybe a bit more physical, you can maybe be a bit more cynical, and not take the decisions out of the referee's hand. Be stronger, be more dominating on the pitch. Yes, we could say it should have been a foul and all that kind of stuff. But like I say, you've got to be more streetwise and clever. And I'm loath to use these decisions to sugarcoat a game. But I think maybe the penalty, in all seriousness, should have maybe had a VAR review, and they should have asked the referee to go and have a look at it. And it took, that's something that Unai Emery did mention, and he doesn't mention that a lot. But as I say, for me, you've got to play the game as it is, and the referee was letting so much go. So by the 93rd minute, he ain't going to give that as a foul. You should know that.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say something here now about this match, and I'm not targeting towards this referee, but I'm actually going to really talk about all referees in the Premier League. And I'm going to tie this to David Coote, right? Obviously, when that video came out of how he slandered Klopp, he slandered Liverpool, I'm not going to go into too much detail. Of course, we've all seen it. The question begs now with the PGMOL, are referees making certain decisions on clubs they don't like, on managers they don't like? Because you've seen it here with David Coote in this video, that he said all this stuff about Liverpool. He's obviously called Jurgen Klopp all these names under the sun. And guess what? In certain games, there were certain decisions that didn't go Liverpool way. Now, I'm not saying this referee has something against Aston Villa, right? But it could have been in the VAR room. Why were them two decisions not being given, right? This begs the question for the PGMOL. Are referees, because of David Coote, are they obviously, of course, they're human, right? But are they making decisions based on clubs they don't like, on certain managers they don't like, and maybe even a certain player they don't like? This is something now that has to be openly investigated, in my opinion, by the PFA. Because if David Coote has gone out on this video, of course, unfortunately, it just got leaked. But if that's the case, and he's gone inside that and made certain decisions maybe that didn't go Liverpool's way because of how he feels about that football club, what's to say that other Premier League referees aren't the same? And that's just the way I see that now, Rich. Has this game been one of them? Has other games been one of them? Because you've seen certain VAR decisions that have been absolutely scandalous by referees, by the VAR referee room. Is now, because of David Coote, are all these referees making certain decisions how they feel about football club and managers?
Look, I don't. I would always hesitate to mistake conspiracy for incompetency, and essentially, a lot of the time, it's incompetency. For me, there's always been managers or referees that would manipulate referees or get on the referee side. I mean, even at the level that I used to manage at, we'd ring the referee up on a Friday, and sort of say, "Oh, I'm pleased that you're refereeing us," and try and give a bit of sweet talk, say, we want a fair game, and we want to do this. We know that this team's a bit of a physical one, so we'll look out for our lads and stuff like that. Like, you'd always try and do things that might, try and give you a slight advantage in certain situations. So, look, referees will probably are human beings that will have certain grudges, but I would always hesitate at conspiracy over incompetency, 100%. What I do think, though, is VAR was meant to, they said, take out the debate over decisions and make it much more cut and dried and black and white. But in theory, actually, in reality, it's actually made it more debatable, and we talk about it more because it's now an extra line of regulation that you can argue about. So you don't just moan about the referee making or not making a decision in a game. You now argue about the next level of regulation that gets involved or doesn't get involved in a decision. So it's just added to the debate. Now, again, there's people in the chat saying that don't think it was a foul on Cash. Do think it was a foul on... don't think it was a foul on Cash. Do think it was a foul on Cash. Don't think it was a foul on Rodgers. Do think it was a foul on Rodgers. They've brought in this referee's call now, which again is a bit of a cop-out to say we're gonna generally stick with the referee's decision on the pitch or not decision on the pitch and not re-referee games. But where I do think there's probably some form of, I guess, what would be the word, bias at certain times, is there tends to be less re-refereeing of games that doesn't involve the big six. So if that decision had been Liverpool or it had been Manchester United or it had been Arsenal, and it was say if it was Odegaard running into the box or Saka running into the box like that, that would 100% been reviewed, 100%. Whereas Aston Villa, it doesn't get reviewed. So that because there's less consequence, there's less coverage of that decision, and that's where I think that there's more of an influence with the big six, so-called big six, with a referee maybe thinking, do you know what, the headlines, the press, this the coverage just won't be. I won't want to handle it, so we will review it. But I think at Villa, it'll be forgotten about in a day or so, and that's where I think the problem lies.
Yeah, and I think with VAR, right now, for me, when VAR was first coming in, I was all for it. Honestly, I was honestly all for it to help referees make right decisions if they were clear and obvious. But to me, VAR has nearly made these decisions worse, not because of clear and obvious areas, but they're looking for minuscule stuff. It's so tiny. Like you look at the offside that Forest had. Yes, you could say it's offside, but in what world was that clear and obvious? You know what I mean? Like, where is that
Well,
actually clear and obvious?
well,
If you
they'll
look at the
yeah,
screen on a free screen,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
it's an arm, but realistically, is he going to score with his arm? And I thought this rule was you can only be offside by a body type you can score with. You can't score with your hand. But then you look at other
That's it.
decisions,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and you look at other decisions that have gone. I remember Patrick Bamford literally pointed to where he wanted the ball. It was given offside. A little toenail, I remember being given offside. All these little things. Remember when Roberto Firmino got a
Wesley.
disallowed goal against Aston Villa because
Yeah,
he was an armpit offside? How are referees meant to see this? Yes, a
yeah.
screen sees it, but in what world is an armpit, a toe, an arm, a clear and obvious error to be given for VAR to come in and interrupt that decision? It's not. And that goes to all teams, not just Aston Villa. And now I do want to make this very clear. I'm not blaming the referee for Aston Villa's poor performance. We were poor. I am not taking that away. But it's these decisions that have cost games, other teams, Aston Villa's, the difference between getting a draw or a win. These are things that have always come into it because VAR is looking for the smallest minute detail. Not everything has to be perfect in football. Human error is natural, but it feels like VAR has gotten rid of human error and so robotic. Now, I do love the offside that they were using in the Champions League with the screen that it comes on with like a cloud. That's perfect. Love that. Haven't got an issue with it. But the VAR and the Premier League especially have come out and said, "Oh, that's not really reliable." Yeah, it's been on evidence to, from the World Cup, European Cup, Champions League, that it's so reliable. But for some reason, the Premier League referees don't think that's reliable and they want more evidence to show that it is. If that
Mm.
doesn't scream in some word of a way of corruption to me, I don't know what does, Rich, because they've looked for the smallest minute details themselves, but yet this technology does it really for them. So
Yeah,
I
no, no.
I just think it's all scandalous to me.
Yeah, look, everyone will argue about referees till the cows come home. It's always been the same. VAR hasn't stopped that, and it will carry on regardless of what they do. So it is what it is, right? I think the Rodgers one ultimately, I think, should have been looked at again. I don't think he had
Hmm.
a. Why would he go down? He has no reason to go down. He's through. So that one for me, the cash one, yeah, could be given, could not be given. Ultimately, we should have
Yeah.
defended the cross better.
I
We
think it
should
was
have
a foul.
defended better.
I think it was a foul personally. He didn't make any contact with the ball. He's gone through him. Cash doesn't even see him coming. I feel like it was a foul in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, no, no, I agree. I agree. But ultimately, he ain't giving a foul. He hasn't given a foul. He ain't gonna go
Yeah, but
back
the
and give
way
a
the game
foul.
was gone, yes.
And you've got to defend the cross better. You've got to defend the cross better. The
Hmm.
penalty, I think, should have been a penalty. But we are always going to argue about refs. People are always going to scream corruption. People are always going to scream conspiracy because that's how it works. And
Hmm.
but yeah, I totally agree with you in terms of the semi-automatic technology and all that kind of stuff. And they are going to change the offside, I think, to stop this. And I just think also like you said before, where they draw the line, at what point, they've got these frames, is it split second too early, split second too late, etc., etc. So yeah, but yeah, I think, like I said, I think physically we should have stood up a bit better, particularly those last 10 minutes, and I do think we should be reading the game and reading the referees better in terms of how we should approach it and how we should approach the flow of the game. Like if the referee's card happy right at the start of the game, you kind of gauge that, and then you adjust accordingly. If you know the referee's letting a lot go, right? Happy days, midfield. We can start throwing some challenges and we can start pulling players back. We can start being nasty. Brilliant. Let's do it. Let's win the physical battle. You know what type of battle it's going to be at Nottingham Forest. And particularly when it's 1-0 down, they're just going to go, right, we might as well lose this game 2-0. right, might as well try and going after trying to win it 2-1. You know that's what they're going to do, and particularly when they get a disallowed goal. So yeah, so much to learn from Aston Villa that I
Mm,
thought we'd have already learned. So let's move on to the kind of couple of other talking points, guys. Please do smash the like button. Please hit the subscribe button as well. Almost 200 in the chat, which is brilliant. I'm trying to get through as many of the comments as I can, but I know we're in full flow discussing the game as well. So please bear with us. But hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Follow us at Villa Park Pod and at Marto Leonardo on X as well. Where do you want to go next? I guess let's talk the goal scorer. And we know we're getting this debate, and this is the kind of raging debate every single game, every single week. John Duran or Ollie Watkins. I don't think they can play together. So ultimately, it is going to be the question: John Duran or Ollie Watkins. Where do you stand with it?
Look, I'm gonna have to go with John Duran at this point. I just think that with the chances that he gets, they're so minimal sometimes, but he puts them away. Where Ollie Watkins, chance after chance after chance seems to miss them. He's 15 big chances missed in the Premier League. That's not good enough for a striker. So I just think that John Duran has taken his chance. He has, shown that he can play at the top level. He can, bully defenders, puts in great tackles as well. I feel like John Duran's hold of play needs to be a little bit better. That's the way I think. I think his hold of play needs to be a little bit better. I think he needs to bring more people into the game. But I still think he should be given his chance more than Ollie Watkins now at this minute, because Ollie Watkins, for me, yes, he might get the goal here and there, but you think about it, he probably should have a lot more. And his hold of play hasn't really been good. Of course, it was improving for the last 2 weeks, but when John Duran came on against Leipzig, his first chance from outside the box, he's absolutely dinked the goalkeeper, and it's gone into the back of the net. How come Ollie Watkins won't hit one from range? How come, Morgan Rogers won't hit one from range? And I'm just going to mention him as well, because he's kind of nearly playing as a second striker almost in his role.
We'll come to him.
We'll obviously come to him in a second. But with Duran, I just feel like his chances are so small, but he puts them away. And that's what you need. And of course, the service, I think, needs to be a bit better around them. And hopefully in January, obviously that'll be a point that we come to down the line, in January, that we bring in some playmakers to be able to give John Duran, these clear-cut chances, and he can put them away.
Yeah. I'm inclined to agree with you. And it's not saying Ollie Watkins is a bad player or anything like that. I just think what you said in terms of the hold-up play and the bringing players into the game, I think John Duran needs to be in the team to learn that. He needs to be in the team to improve on that. And if he's not put in the team, he isn't going to improve that. He isn't going to learn that. He's just going to going to be an impact player that gets the odd start here or there. So the players are never going to get used to playing in the way that John Duran plays, which is going to be different to how Ollie Watkins plays. They're just going to try and search for a run that Ollie Watkins would make rather than a run that John Duran makes. But ultimately, John Duran is scoring the goals. Like he's a one in. I mean, it's not even an every other chance. He scores 2 out of every 3 chances that he gets. So you have to play the guy who's putting the chances away, the guy who does take shots from outside the area, the guy who's defending against him doesn't know what he's going to do from 1 minute to the next. You have to play that player. And yes, he was frustrating yesterday in terms of his movement or lack of, or the runs that he was making, or at times he's bringing players into the game. But you can teach him that. You can help him with that, and playing more games will help him get there. Whereas Ollie Watkins at the moment, he'll give you the running, he'll give you the work, but he's not scoring enough chances. Like you say, he's not doing enough in terms of on the ball to be a threat consistently enough. Yes, he had a great game against Brentford, but then he wasn't great. He was okay against Leipzig. Wasn't great when he came against Southampton at all. So yes, for me, John Duran has now gone ahead of him because of the you can't teach someone to score goals, and that's what wins you games, and that's what gets you the headlines. You can teach him, and he can build the rhythm of playing within the team. So to me, it has to be now John Duran, and then it's Ollie Watkins' challenge to get the shirt back. And that's where I stand with it at the moment. John Duran will cause Man City crazy problems on Saturday if he plays, whereas I think Watkins just won't.
Yeah, and you obviously with this comment here from Sai AVFC, he says Duran has scored 4 more goals than Ollie Watkins and has barely played minute wise, like where Ollie Watkins has. So if that doesn't scream to me that a player is playing a lot less minutes, and we've obviously seen his minute per ratio in goals in the Premier League and the Champions League, of course. He has to be playing, he has to be starting. And of course, everything else around them will come to flow as the games go on, and of course, in his training sessions, because he's going to be the number one choice, it'll happen for him. And then, of course, I think I seen another comment as well. That was from where is he now? That was from Lewis. He was saying to sell Watkins maybe because of the chances that he's probably missing. And then of course I was bringing into the fact that maybe service wise for Duran, as Sai again, I said we might need wingers, direct wingers. And suppose that could help him then with all that. And I just feel like Duran does need better service. He really does. Because if he's not getting the service, he's not going to score the goals. But yet he has been, because he's nearly creating chances for himself. You've seen the goal against Southampton, 2 defenders trying to go for the ball. He's just nicked it. That little bit of luck and goes and runs through. The goal against Everton, he smacked one from range. A great run against Bayern Munich, he goes and gets one. The goal against Bologna, the movement just to get in front of the defender, to get any touch on the ball. He's nearly creating chances for himself. And that's impressive enough, in my opinion, if he's going to get them goals. He now needs the better service and, of course, keep up his work rate to create the chances for himself. And what's to say he might not even hit 20 goals this season? Or he might even hit 20 goals this season, sorry.
Yeah. Jamie just say Duran and Watkins are different types of strikers. We need to go by the opposition we are facing. One of the issues we have is no proper captain on field. McGinn is a joke as a captain.
I don't agree with now. With McGinn is a joke as a captain now, to be honest with you. I don't really agree with that. I think he is a great leader for Aston Villa. But yes, there's games he doesn't really turn up to. But to call him really a joke of a captain of Aston Villa, I don't agree with that full stop. Because after Tyrone Mings, who could you give it to? Of course, you could say Emi Martinez, but there's only so much a goalkeeper can be vocal about on the pitch. I just feel like John McGinn is that player to be the captain of Aston Villa.
No, I do like the fact McGinn's captain. I just think he needs to bring that element of his game where he can roll up players on the pitch, particularly at times when we need that leadership. I think that's where I know he's an example of but I didn't see him put any tackles in yesterday, so he didn't even do that. Like, if you're not going to tell players what to do or have a go at players at certain times, then at least do what you want them to do by showing it. And I didn't see him show it, but I agree. I don't think he's a joke of a captain, because we wouldn't have got to the Champions League. We wouldn't have done this sort of stuff without him as a captain. We've done that with him as a captain, so that shows. Adam says context matters with the Duran Watkins stats. Of course it does. But ultimately, is it easier to teach a striker to have the natural ability to score goals? Is it easier to teach them how to play and operate within the team? Or is it easier to teach a team player how to score goals? You've got to go with a goal scorer every time. You've got to.
It's easier. It's easier to teach a natural goal scorer, because then you can teach them how to make clever runs in behind, how to press certain defenders, and he'll obviously put his chances away. Because obviously the word, that gets used a lot in football, is natural. So when you're a natural goal scorer, it doesn't really need to be coached. It might need a little tweaking just to help you get over that line into that professional level. But it wouldn't really need a lot. There'd be other elements that you need. The clever runs in behind, dropping in deep, how to bring other players into games. All that kind of comes then with that. And then when you get into the box, that's when your bread and butter comes into effect. So the all-round game of a striker needs to come in. If a striker is a natural goal scorer, great. You can work in on his other attributes. But when he has all these other attributes and he's not a natural goal scorer, that's a little bit harder to coach.
Exactly. You just have to look at the 2 goals that John Duran scored in the Champions League that got disallowed. That goal against Young Boys was incredible finishing. Incredible.
Remember, when you used to play, for anyone?
Yeah. It was like a pro evolution soccer goal.
I was
Like,
just about to say that for anyone that was like my age, right? Like obviously playing on the PlayStation and you're playing PES like 2009 or something, right? And you just hit one and it goes so smoothly, like an Adriano type of player, and just goes like that. I was something like that, and I'm just sitting there going, "What a player we've got!" And then unfortunately, it obviously got disallowed, but still. And then you see Watkins; his goals are nearly at this minute, in my opinion, his goals are nearly underwhelming.
mm,
Where Duran's
mm,
goals are like lifting people off their seats.
mm. Yeah, yeah. Look, it's getting some real good debate on in the chat. Adam says, for me, Watkins brings others into play. If Duran doesn't score, he's not helping anyone else score. I agree. He has to bring that element in, and we've talked about that. Lee says Watkins lacks aggression. He's too nice. And someone else was talking. So many comments coming in. Someone else was talking about. I'll come to that point in a second. Yeah, Sharik said Watkins has proven mentality, so we couldn't handle the pressure from Danny Ings and couldn't hit barn door. Now Duran shows everyone what he can do, and Watkins goes to pot again. And I do need to shout out Sharik as well for his £2 super chat. Football aside, best Villa channel on YouTube, absolute legend,
That's a
mate.
pound
And
each for you and me, Rich. Can't wait to get in front
yeah,
of her.
exactly. Look, every little helps, absolutely. But look, man, the comments are great. I love getting people talking about the channel and giving us praise. Someone shouted us out on X as well the other day. It was really appreciated. So do love it, and yeah, thanks so much. Comment coming from Sai says also Duran links better with Rodgers than Watkins does. Now I think Watkins and Rodgers have set each other up a few times, but brings me on to my next point about Morgan Rodgers. Now, we know the potential that this guy has got. We know how good he is in full flow running at players. But I said this after the Liverpool game, are we expecting too much on this player in terms of being the main creative outlet, asking him to beat 2 or 3 men every time he runs with the ball and then pop it off to someone in the channel or have a shot or create or put a cross in that's going to be scored, because he isn't there yet. And for me yesterday, there were so many flattering to deceive moments with Morgan Rodgers. Like he'd get past a couple of players and then every move would just peter out. He'd give the ball away. He wouldn't have a shot. His cross would get blocked at the first man. He'd then turn back and he'd just lose the momentum. Where do we stand with this? Like, is there too much expectation on him? Do we need to bring someone in to take the load off him, or do we need to? I don't know. Do we need to take the reins off him a little bit in terms of what his expectations are?
I think we need to probably bring in, like the point that was said in the comments, is bringing in wingers to help him take the load off. Maybe bringing in 2 wingers that he can get the ball to, and hopefully they can have that creative standpoint. Because at this minute, the way Rodgers runs with the ball, in my opinion, question to none, best in the Premier League at it. But when he kind of gets past that, it feels like he's almost thinking too much. And then by the time he makes that decision, it's the wrong one. Whereas naturally, maybe just going to make a decision that comes at first instinct, and if it pays off, great. If it doesn't, it's time to bring Jack back. The Jack back slander back for you, Rich. That was banned by us in the group chat, by the way.
Lewis does it on purpose. He does it on
Yeah,
purpose. I know he does.
yeah, and but as I was saying about Rodgers, he was obviously having a great start to the season, but I feel like maybe ever since he signed the contract, has it weighed in his head a little bit, because you've always seen with players, they play exceptionally well and then they get a new deal and the form kind of goes. Has that happened to him in a way? And then you could say maybe not for John Duran. Excuse me,
Bless
apologies.
you.
Thank you. Has that really happened to Rodgers? You might say the same about Duran, but he's still performing. But with Rodgers, it just feels like that maybe the contract's kind of got to his head. Has that money got to his head? Is the fame getting there as well? And maybe just not reeling it in and say, right, let me just focus on my football and we go from there. But then I also feel like we do need 2 wingers, in my opinion, to take the load off him a little bit. or maybe even another attacking midfielder, and we can try and push him out wide even, which could help him. All these other options that can come into effect. So we'll have to wait and see what happens, I think, Rich, with January, in my opinion, because that's the thing where it's going to be a talking point for Rodgers in terms
Yeah.
of he's not going to get sold or he's not going to be sent alone or anything like that. But it's just trying to get players and maybe to take the load off him. Because I do agree where you're coming from. We're probably expecting too much of Morgan Rodgers now, because you have to remember he came from the Championship, put in these great performances, and now it's a point of he's supposed to be our main guy. So we're putting too much on him, I think, and maybe that can also be another element. The pressure is kind of getting onto him. So we need to be smart, in my opinion, in January about bringing players in to take a load off him and to make him look like a better player too.
Yeah, I'm loath to kind of simplify the argument as sign a new contract, lose form. I do think he's played a lot of minutes, and where I would probably agree with you in terms of not the head's been turned again. Like, it's a bit of a easy sweeping statement to make, but what I would say is that you're in the England squad. You've got a best friend in in Cole Palmer. You've got really good mates in Jude Bellingham. And we know these lads talk on their WhatsApp groups and they have the little competitions against each other. And, maybe it's a case of like they see them do something. They want to do that. They want to make sure they're getting the stats up. They want to make sure they're getting their passing stats in and their assists. The only thing I would say is, like, if he was doing that, why isn't he shooting more? Because he doesn't shoot.
No, he really doesn't.
So I'd rather him be obsessed with beating Cole Palmer's goal record and take shots from everywhere than just give the ball away. But yeah, it is a frustrating one because all of the elements seem to be there with him. It's just putting them together, and that's why, as you said, times that, yes, he's played some wonderful passes through to Ollie Watkins and he's missed chances, but there's also been times where Watkins or Duran has made these runs. It's an easy pass across the box, or he's clear to shoot and he's tried to set someone up for a goal. It's like, just go shoot yourself. It's just the decision making is as important in the opposition penalty box as it is in our own penalty box. And we seem to be making the wrong decisions when we're getting our key chances, and we're also making the wrong decisions for the key chances against us as well. And that's not a good combination, because that's not going to win you any games. And I just think, like you said, maybe January we bring someone in to support him. The other point is do you go with an Onana and Kamara defensive midfield structure and put Tielemans further forward for certain games as well? Maybe that gives you a bit more solidity. Maybe it gives you a bit more passing ability and takes a bit of pressure off Yuri Tielemans in that more defensive position, because, again, sometimes he can get overrun. But that also really massively depends on the fitness of Amadou Onana, and a lot of the time he's not fit. He's not been fit enough.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Maybe the whole idea was to have a partnership of Onana and Kamara together, and of course maybe to push Tielemans up and to put Rodgers out wide. But that hasn't been the case, unfortunately, this season, because with football, anything can happen. You have to have a plan A, B, and a C. And that's been the case. So, look, time will have to tell. Maybe, hopefully, after Onana coming on, who I felt was good when he was with Kamara, but then kind of the standard kind of dropped when Barkley come on next to him. So, I just feel like maybe that is a partnership to go forward and maybe put Tielemans up forward and to put Rodgers on the left-hand side for that a little bit more quality on out wide. But, time will have to tell on that. So we'll have to wait and see on Onana's fitness goals in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. Adam says, where's Rodgers' best position? Yeah, it's a tough one.
It's a great question, because you've seen him playing left wing, right wing, in the middle, up front. So it's a great question. No one knows really his best position, but I feel like his best position at the moment is down the middle.
Sharik on Rodgers, the guy can't pass a ball to save his life, head down and runs every single time. And Aaron says Watkins can only score in his bedroom. Love Aaron. Love Aaron.
Aaron's back with the puns.
He loves it. Philly Fly says, yeah, it's too much pressure on Rodgers. He needs time to improve. Lewis said he played well yesterday.
He did play well yesterday.
He's so dangerous running with the ball, but I want to see more come off the back of it. I don't see enough coming off the back of his runs, and he needs to get more reward for his good work. That's what he needs to do. But again, I feel like particularly away from home, he's having to run 30 or 40 yards every time to then create the opportunity, and he's probably knackered after that. He needs to pick up the ball like 30 yards away from goal, beat a man, and then be in position to shoot or pass, whereas he's having to pick up the ball in his own half, run with it, beat two men, and then he's in position. And by the time he's done that, either players have caught up with him or he's too tired to think about what he needs to do. And that's the difficult part. Michael said Rodgers' endgame is the key to him moving up to the next level. Exactly. Absolutely agree. Gary said Rodgers is an elite player like Bellingham, needs a nasty tackler to help him in. Yeah, he needs help, says Adam, an actual experienced winger. And Cloudy said, who said it earlier? I was listening to a pod, could have been Luke. Why don't we just sign like who we want and take a point deduction? Yeah, potentially. And Lewis said he does the Jack thing for a bit of banter, but I really think he could keep the ball and keep us in control. Look, you never know. I just think the wages are a problem. But I think certainly Tuesday, Fans Forum will talk about PSR funds. Where do we need to strengthen? We'll do that on Tuesday. We'll also maybe assess like the transfers that we've made in the summer. How well have they gone? What do we think about it? Anything else that you wanted to cover? I mean, anything on the manager? I'm always loath to criticise him, but a lot of it is. I think AVFC Sato put a message out before about Villa have conceded 10 points or something from winning positions. I think something like the most. Yes. And then if you look at our form since November the 1st, which again is a bit of a weird time frame to look at it. I think it was more picking up Man City's bad form. But Man City's points per game since November the 1st is 0.57. Worse than Southampton's, which is 0.67. But Villa's was the joint third worst at 1 point per game since November the 1st. So I know we've had some tough away games, like to Chelsea, like to Liverpool. But it's really not great, is it? So is Emery learning? Because in a lot of the post-match comments coming from him are quite... I know it's a language barrier. I get all that. But they just seem to be like standard answers. Like, we're trying to find a rhythm. We're trying to find consistencies. The players are doing what we're asking them to do. We just want them to do it a bit better. Are we at a stage now where we just need to be calling what we see and saying it's not good enough?
Yeah, I think we need to be at a stage where, look, it's not good enough at this minute. Now, I'm not questioning the manager's decision. I'm not questioning, whether he should be in the job or not. I just think that...
Oh, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
No, we should be able to say that, look, it hasn't been good enough the last few weeks. You need to sit in a room, talk it out, and say, look, what do we need to do to make this better? What system can we go with to make it better? Because I felt like against Leipzig, I don't know what it was, when we went 3 at the back, with the wing backs, 2 midfielders, the 2 attacking midfielders, and a striker, I felt we were more solid in the middle of the park because we could have like 6 players in front of the 3 that could like be solidified, and you have the lone striker. I felt we were a lot more solid. Where we're playing 4 lately, it doesn't seem to work because you've got like 3 centre backs and 1 natural left back. So I feel like if we play with 3 at the back and 2 wing backs, I think we'd be a lot more comfortable. I think on the ball, I think we'd be a lot more comfortable without it. So maybe that's something to look at, in my opinion, that we have then 3 defenders that can, be solid on the day, and they're all playing in their natural positions. Because at this minute, as of late, we have 1 centre half who's playing out of position nearly every single week, and we're changing our backline constantly. And I think that's something that needs to be addressed, is that we need to stick to a backline that has to be playing every single week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Loads of comments coming in, absolutely loads. Where are we? Adam says Unai's tactics don't take long shots, and Unai is getting things wrong. We aren't changing those things. He does need some blame. Sharik says 10 points lost from winning positions and the second highest goals conceded. Kev does say in context, we were 3 minutes away from fourth and 4 wins on the trot, guys. Fine margins. Yeah, I agree with that. And in isolation on yesterday, but in terms of a trend of games, and a trend across the year, really, if we're talking 2024, I want to do a bit of a deeper dive into 2024 because we were
Mm,
waxing lyrical about being third in the league for the whole of 2023. I'd be interested to see where we would be in the league on our 2024. I know we've got a few games to come, but I'll be interested to see that. Gary said, "What more can Unai do? They were good players to bring on." Yeah, I do agree. And maybe, mate, if I had his time back, and I was saying this in the stands yesterday, I don't know who he had as a defensive option on the bench, but I would have been, after we went 1-0 up, maybe give it 3 or 4 minutes, but I would have been, right, let's take Morgan Rogers off. Let's bring Nedeljkovic or someone on. I don't know, or
mm,
another midfielder. Let's bring Barkley on. Let's bring Barkley on with three after that. After we 1-0 up, 3 or 4 minutes, bring Barkley on. Put Cash back to right back or right wing back, and then put Concert in as a centre back. So you got three centre backs then straight away, and just close out the game. Just close it out. And then you
mm.
might bring Watkins on for a bit more running ability up further forward, but you just shore it up. But I just don't feel like he did it, and that's me. I'm obviously I can only say what I would do, but it just seemed a bit strange in terms of why he didn't go right. Because when he first came in and we went 1-0 up away from home, he'd shore it up. He'd put six at the back, but we just seem
Yeah,
to have gone away from doing that. I don't understand it. I don't understand it.
yeah. It just feels like that. We're almost making like for like substitutions in terms of the positionings that we're changing. We changed, Kamara and Tielemans straight for like Onana and Barkley, like straight like for like Duran for Watkins. Matson for Dina. These are players that are like, yes, of course, it's great to get fresh legs on and have a bit more engine to the team, but if they need to tweak formation wise, sometimes that helps too. And
Mm.
Emery's supposed to be this, tactician of this genius of being so passionate about what he does. It just feels like the last few weeks he's just making like for like substitutions, and that's something that maybe just needs to be addressed a little bit as well. And just to bring up a point for you, Rich, because you seem to have hated this man so much, but Russell Martin has just been sacked by Southampton.
Yeah, I've seen that. I did see that, and
Yeah, so I think maybe your point that he's probably not going to
didn't
go to a
learn.
Bayern Munich or an Inter Milan now. I think he's probably going to go to Stockport.
Oxford just sat their manager, so maybe he'll go there. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
I just yeah, like I think you bang on. I think the look, we absolutely love Unai Emery, and he's doing phenomenally well in the Champions League, and we're still sixth in the table. Let's not forget. So look, there's lots of teams that are being inconsistent in this Premier League. That then means that there's an opportunity to show what to take advantage of
We should
this.
be about,
There is a
yeah.
real opportunity, but in terms of maybe Emery goes back to kind of those basics of look, we're 1-0 up away from home against a big team like Nottingham Forest. Yes, we'd controlled the game up to a certain point, but we knew that momentum was going to come. So let's go and let's do that six across the back, and let's just not let them not let them have easy crosses. But if they do have crosses, we've got enough bodies in the box to head it clear.
Mm.
That's what we did against Brighton away, against Tottenham away, multiple away games where we would do that and win the game by hook or by crook. And we just seem to have lost that element, and we seem to be easy to play against, particularly when the other team grabs momentum. Like when there's momentum and when it's time to batten down the hatches seem to be just springing open because we're just conceding goals easily. But yeah, look, I don't want to keep labouring on the point, and we'll finish up in a second, but I think to put maybe a slight positive more spin on it, we're sixth in the table. Other teams have been losing around us, that kind of stuff. So again, there's a big opportunity to put things
Mm.
right against Man City on Saturday, and the players do have a week's rest. Might be an opportunity for one or two players to get back to fitness, like the likes of Leon Bailey, Onana getting some more training in this week. So there's an opportunity here to put it right, and then it would be 4 wins potentially out of 5, and that would be, you would certainly take that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's obviously it's not all doom and gloom, but when you just look at the situation in hand and where we could have been, maybe that's something that always plays into our mind. Of course, us Villa fans, we love a meltdown, me included. Uh, but sometimes it's not all doom and gloom. So maybe a win against Man City is probably exactly what we need. They're not exactly great right now, but if we get a win against them, that would be great. And then you go and get a win against Newcastle, probably sets the marker for how we're doing for the season.
Yeah, and shout out for Villa women's team. Great win today against West Ham, and Sean Goater delivering for Villa at the moment. So really good for them. Just before we finish up, a quick shout out. There is 1 day left, or less than 24 hours left, to potentially win a squad signed and framed Aston Villa 24-25 shirt. If you want to enter, make sure you go to footballprizes.co.uk. There are only 268 tickets available. Competition ends tomorrow. Tickets cost just $3.95. There's also instant win prizes available as well, of a signed Ollie Watkins shirt, a signed Ian Matson shirt, as well as plenty other memorabilia as well. I do have also details of a members only competition. I have a wonderful set of Aston Villa playing cards that I'm trying to get out here from Matty723. Some great designs here. We've got Luca Dean on there. We've got Unai Emery as the Joker. So really, really nice cards here.
Wow.
Yeah. Some really good ones. King Konza there. So I think he's got the different suits of the different kit styles as well. So really good prizes. Emmy Martinez is the ace. There we go. So really good. So that's a members only prize. So make sure you can become a member. Click the $sign. Follow the instructions there. We'll probably do it. I'll probably announce the winners next week. I think just after Christmas, probably either our Brighton preview show or Brighton reaction show. Hopefully after a victory. So hit the $sign. Follow the instructions or click the join button. Become a member. Just $1.99 a month. We have a fantastic members only prize for a 24-25 Aston Villa playing card set. And as I say, don't forget to go to football prizes for your signed Aston Villa shirt potential winner. Martin, absolute pleasure having you on the show, mate. Really good pod tonight. And yes, we have to talk about defeats, but I think sometimes it's a bit of therapy as well. And it's lets the chat get everything off their chest as well.
Gets it all out of our chest.
It does. We're going to be back. Hopefully, we're talking tactics with Gareth to go through this game in terms from a tactical perspective, and maybe look at where the players and Unai Emery need to maybe improve, particularly away from home. It'd be good to get his take on that. We'll also have Fans Forum back on Tuesday, hopefully with a special guest as well coming on the show. We're going to talk PSR. We're going to talk transfers. We're going to talk what we think about the transfers in the summer, because that is driving a lot of debate as well. And we'll obviously got Man City build up, so we'll get a Man City fan from their perspective, opposition preview, and we'll also do match preview with the boys as well. Everyone have a great Sunday evening and rest of the weekend. Martin, thank you very much for joining. Make sure you hit that like button, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and as always, win, lose or draw, remember, we all follow the Villa.